Hey everybody, this is Tell the Truth Sports Radio, and I'm here to tell you the truth about the NFL and the Tyreek Hill situation. I want to start with 49ers just beating up on the Jets, and it was like Lionel Richie was saying, even though it's Monday and it's headed toward Tuesday morning, it was easy like Sunday morning. This was a nice, easy win. The Jets scored and took a lead. They were up 7-3, then it was 7-6. When the Jets kept going three and out, the Niners had two long drives and a half where they ran the ball, they passed the ball, and they ended up 16-7. I knew the game was over at the half. Then they got the ball in the third quarter, and I'm going to count the long drive here. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 play, 70-yard drive. And his body blows. It was Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason just crushing him. Jordan Mason was the star of the game, and it's the Shanahan, and what he did, McCaffrey was there, so what he did is says, listen, he's a one-cut runner, he's gonna cut through the hole. They ran the typical Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan plays. They ran for Terrell Davis, and boy, he ate. And then they passed the ball. Let's look at the stats. I'll tell you, this is how And the Jet defense got tired because the offense kept going three and out. And then when I could tell you start getting injuries because of long drives, now you got backups in there, and they just ran through the backups with ease. 401 total yards to 266 of the Jets. 221 passing yards, 180 rushing yards to the Jets, 68. Wish they weren't going to run the Niners anyway. Look at this, and this is all you need to know about who dominated, how easy this was. The Jets had 49 snaps. The Jets had 49 snaps. The 49ers had 70 snaps. They took 38 minutes off the clock in total possessions. And usually, sometimes that's not always the case because of quick striking teams. But in this case, this was a nice, easy game. Everybody got in the stat line. Purdy was 19 of 29, 231 yards, solid. Mason 147 yards rushing. He's running all over the Jets. Deebo Samuel's doing what he does. Juwan Jennings got to play well. Deebo Samuels got to catch the ball, and Jusic caught the ball well on a 40-yard pass. Kittle got in, Ayuk got in. Everybody was involved. It was a complete demolition. And I'm gonna tell you something about the Niners defense. They can't go without Warner. Fred Warner sets the tone for Hargrave and Collins and Floyd up the middle and Bosa. Those guys are great, and they have that good up the middle pressure. And they have the good guys, Floyd and Bosa, come off the edges, which makes them difficult. But what makes that hole, and then Warner solid, the linebacker's okay. I'm not crazy about the corners they got, but it doesn't matter because Telfunga he's one of the best safeties in the league. I'm not crazy about the rest of the secondary. It means nothing because you got a lot of secondary, but the quarterback's on his rear end. It means, the Bears, the 85 Bears didn't have the greatest secondary in the world, but it didn't matter because they put so much pressure and the linebackers stuffed the run. The linebackers guarded the pass well. Warner can cover tight ends over the middle. Warner is a plug in the running game. Warner is the leader of the team. He's one of the best players in the entire National Football League. Ain't no pretty solid. Now, they've been there. Now, the Niners and Dallas were the two, and the Eagles were the three most impressive teams. The Eagles have won a Super Bowl recently and been to one. They have some equity. The Niners and the Cowboys always look unbeatable. And then the playoffs, the Niners, because they had injuries and they have to stay healthy. The Niners should have lost to Green Bay, should have lost the Lions, and blew a 10-point lead to the Chiefs. So The Niners and the Cowboys carry inner demons with them, and they have to finish because they look like they're in a collision course to play each other. And whoever wins that will win the Super Bowl like the '90s. But I'll take a wait and see approach. But I'm Fred Warner. My gosh, he should get a couple of MVP votes. That's how good this guy is. I just sat and watched him and every snap. I was like, Mike, he's almost in every play. So it was an impressive night for the Niners, and I'll talk about the rest of the NFL next. Okay, college football wasn't super exciting. You didn't have the super exciting matchups. There was one really good game. There was one big upset. Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. I was impressed by Notre Dame uh, last week against Texas A&M, but I wasn't overwhelmed. I did think they were going to go undefeated till they got beat by USC and get destroyed in the playoffs, but they're not a playoff team unless they run the table and beat USC. I believe Louisville will beat them in Louisville. USC will beat them, so that we don't have to worry about them as a playoff team. They're not explosive enough. Northern Illinois was the more of the explosive offensive team. I love the fight in those guys and those mid-major teams that always are really great in their conference. They have a chip on their shoulders when they come and play the a good Power Five team that's not great. They'll smell blood and pull the upset like they did in Notre Dame. Hampton had 198 yards passing, and Brown, Ontario Brown, had 99 yards rushing. You compare to Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, 20 of 32, 163 yards. 20 of 32, 163 yards. That means you're not really getting the ball down the field. And their best receiver had 79, 45 yards receiving. You're receiving. I wasn't impressed with them last week in Texas A&M. They didn't really get the ball down the field. They say, well, Riley Leonard is the type of guy, he's a passer. He passes within 10, 20 yards. That's going to get you by the schedule they have. That's going to get you trounced to USC. And it's probably going to get you beat in Louisville too. So I'm closing the book on Notre Dame this year. All right. The other game, Texas beat up on rebuilding Michigan. That was understood because Heward's is really good, 3 touchdowns. They didn't run it great because Michigan still plays really good defense, but Heward's was great. And their whole team, they look more and more like an SEC team each year. They're in the SEC. They're fast and they're physical. I want to see them against Oklahoma. I want to see them against Georgia. So, because Texas has had a history of just kind of crumbling, really good talent, crumbling at that big moment later in the season. When Georgia comes to Austin, can they win that? At Arkansas is a lot better. Can they win that? Texas A&M is a rivalry. Good defense, offense is okay. Can they win that? If they take care of business and win, just lose. If you lose at home in Georgia, you run the table. I think even 2 losses and you play competitive in the SEC championship game, that probably gets you in the playoffs. But I think they have bigger goals. They want a top 4 seed. But the best game I stayed up late. I mean, I was tired the next morning, but I stayed up late because I knew Boise State would give Oregon a game, and they probably should have beat them. That was such a great game. And they got a kid that he's going to be in New York with the Heisman. I don't know if he'll win it, but Alshon Jeffrey had 92 yards rushing, 3 TDs. He was as explosive as you can get. And I mean, Oregon was pushing them around. Boise State was pushing them around, but they settled for a field goal instead of a touchdown when it could have been a 2-score lead of 2014 at the half. And that was not good. But then Genty had a 70. After falling behind, Oregon was taking over. Genty had that 70-yard explosive run. They scored again. They take the lead. And then the key, because Oregon was in trouble, but Noah Whittington runs a 100-yard kickoff. He throws the ball. He drops the ball before he scores, but lucky enough, one of the Oregon players recovered it, and they tied the game. And then Oregon got the ball back. They ran the ball and passed the ball and ran out the clock. Oregon likes to run to pass, but I wasn't crazy about Gabriel, even though he had 243 yards, 18 and 21. It took a while for them to get going. The best player that they had was Jordan James. He was explosive. And I believe Dan Landing likes to run to pass. They're like the 49ers. They do pass it well, but they love to punch you in the face with those 10-yard chunk play runs. I mean, those 10-minute chunk play running drives, passing off play action, and multiple formations. They get you like that. And that's how Oregon wins. And Oregon is a player they're going to make the playoffs. They're definitely going to, the Big Ten's going to have. If Michigan makes a run and they lose 2 or 3 games and they maybe steal Ohio State game, Ohio State maybe doesn't need it, they're undefeated, they can sneak into place. I take a 3-loss Michigan team over a 2-loss Notre Dame team because they lost to Northern Illinois. I'm going to be a proponent against keeping them out of the playoffs unless they run the table, which they won't. And everybody else held up. Tennessee blew out NC State. Everybody's chalk held up. Georgia, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama. I was trying to get to the Mississippi Wake Forest game. I don't think I'll be able to do it. I had put in for credentials a little too late, but I'm going to try to do some Wake Forest games because of how close my family lives down there. I really want to do that. I don't think I'll be able to, but I love Dart. I love Missouri. I love Tennessee. I'm not crazy about Penn State. They barely won. Love Oregon. Miami looks solid. SE's great. Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, SEC, 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 Big Ten, SEC, SEC. See this power conference. I didn't like the power conference, but because there's 4 really good teams and a whole bunch of teams that are very competitive. So this 12-team playoff is setting up to be great. And everybody has a chance. So there's a lot of good matchups all the way down to like Iowa State beat Iowa and Iowa again. So Iowa State's in it. And they're well coached. I don't know. Nebraska. I'm gonna end this with Nebraska just destroying Colorado. I'm worried about Colorado. I didn't like Shador Sanders throwing his offensive line under the bus, saying, "Hey, the other guy had plenty of time to pass the ball. Hey, I'm all behind all the time." Even if it's the truth, as a leader, you're like, "I got to be better. We'll try to get better. We as a team, as a leader, I get that." But he didn't say, "He said, hey, man, it ain't my fault." It probably isn't because he did get sacked up, but it's just for team morale. I'm concerned about team morale in that locker room. You just hear stories, and then Deion's got to get a hold of them because they have so much ability on the outside. They don't block well. Their defense is going to have to be better. Nebraska was looking for revenge, but Colorado has got to walk into Colorado State and get that win. That's going to really help their program. Because if they do that, they can beat Baylor. University of Central Florida is going to be tough. Kansas State is coming into Colorado. That's going to be tough. If you could pull off an upset between Kansas State and Arizona, making a bowl out of this rough schedule, it should be the goal right now. Forget the playoffs or anything crazy like that. But because this schedule is Kansas State, at Arizona, at Texas Tech, which would be Utah. It's very physical. At Kansas, which is really good. even though they got upset by Illinois, and then Oklahoma State. Whew. So they have to come together as a team before they try to put together a run. They could, but this Colorado State game is going to tell me everything I need to know about their season. All right, one of the best games of the week was the Lions and Rams on Sunday Night Football. Matthew Stafford coming back to Detroit again and lost the playoffs. This was such a good game. I actually thought the Rams had blew the game in the first half by getting in the red zone and not scoring at all. And they kicked a field goal, but they went for it and didn't make it. They only had 3 points out of the 2 times they drove, and then the Lions end up scoring and going up 10-3. And then Goff threw a dime to Jameson Williams to make it 17-3 as a horseshoe. And they were completely controlling the line of scrimmage and the game. But it was a sweet drive toward the end of the fourth quarter. Kyren Williams rushed for a touchdown, and then they got within 7, and then they played some good defense. I mean, Don Shula's, I think it's Chris Shula, as a defensive coordinator, Don Shula's grandson was dialing up, and they gave Goff some trouble, and they were able to score twice, field goal and a touchdown. Now, they had a chance to put the game away, and they needed a drive to put the game away, and they did. And I knew the last drive that the Rams had to kind of run the clock out, and they couldn't. When that happened, I knew somehow, some way, Goff was going to get it done by scoring a field goal, and they wanted to toss. I knew they were going down the field, and Montgomery ran in, who ran well to win. That was a good win by the Lions, but it showed me that the Rams are definitely a playoff team. They're a little more physical. I don't know if they're physical enough to deal with the Niners, but they're a lot more built, a little better, because I like how Kupp. Now, I hope Nakua's okay because he was out. He got injured. Kupp and Nakua and Johnson. Robert. I love how McVay dials it up. McVay and Shanahan, they dial up plays. So it's always fun to see that. But Shanahan always has better deck of cards because his line, they'll push you around. But the Rams were trying to do that. They're almost like a diet 49ers. They have the characteristics of the 49ers, solid defense. They don't have the dogs up front that the Niners have. So that's going to be they're definitely at least a wild card team. Them in Seattle, if you're going to give the Niners a division, I would definitely, those teams are definitely playoff teams because of the injury to Love. That opens the door for I know Dallas and Philly going to make it. It opens the door for Seattle and the Rams to get in. Arizona, they ended up imploding against Buffalo. Harrison was wide open when Kyler Murray didn't see him. Same old with Arizona. But it opens the door like Detroit. I don't know Minnesota won, but I don't think they're quite there. Chicago's coming. They're going to be much improved by the end of the year. They'll be playing for a playoff spot. I don't think they're going to make it. I'm just concerned about Green Bay because Malik Willis stinks, and they might have to bring another quarterback in. He came in there, and he was spinning like a top on that last play. He couldn't even get the Hail Mary off. They're going to lose a lot. They're going to play catch up when Love comes back. And Tampa's the only one probably coming out of the division. Atlanta is, if their offensive line gets better during the year, they might be good with Cousins and the weapons they got. I don't like nobody. Carolina, I still believe in Bryce Young. I want to see him with weapons. I want to see him with some people on offense. Year 3, I want to see how Bryce Young develops if they're patient enough. And if they're in position, they're going to lose a lot. They could draft a lot linemen running. They could draft pieces for him, and then I'll see week 3. If it doesn't happen, then I'll write him off. But Philadelphia, I talked about that. They look Dallas, they trounce the Cleveland Browns. And Dak Prescott's the first highest paid player. Deshaun Watson's the second highest paid player ever. He should not. That's a terrible contract. I know GMs can't stand that contract of the Browns. He was absolutely. First, I want to give the Cowboys their flowers. They were solid. Dak was sharp. He was 19 to 32, 179 yards at a TD. Their running game is Zeke Elliott, 10 attempts, 40 yards. That's what Dallas does. And then the backups come in and give you yards. They're more just run to move the chains because we got Brandon Cooks and that bad man CeeDee Lamb, who's on the short list of the best receivers in all of football. There's so many good ones. He's right there with all the great ones. He is that good. And he's a potential Hall of Fame receiver if he's healthy. He's that good. But Deshaun Watson stinks. And without Chubb, who unfortunately got hurt, they just can't run and cover his mistakes. He stinks. He doesn't have any feel of he was so good on the Texans too. But yeah, I don't know what happened. I mean, I'm a man, so we all have our issues. We are libido and all that bad stuff. But something changed him for the worse. He looks shell-shot out there. Just his eyes, he just looks bad. With the command, he don't know when to run, he doesn't know when to pass. He's about 7-8 yards off on his passes. Ugh. Ford's all right, but Ford's not going to run against a good defense like that. And Mike Zimmer is a difference maker. Very, very interesting. And the pressure's off the Cowboys. Going to be like, oh, the Cowboys always choke, but hey, maybe they come in a little with house money unless everybody starts to go crazy when the Cowboys start winning. But the Cowboys and 49ers have demons that they got to exercise. 1994, 1995, these have been great organizations the last 5 or 6 years. But there's demons that are on their backs. They got to get the monkeys off their back. I remember as a Steeler fan when Big Ben tackled, I believe, Harper when he fumbled against the Colts, and they were able to survive against a Colt team that was predicted to win the Super Bowl, and they got through that as a wild card. That was the over the hump moment. One of these franchises need a over the hump moment, like, okay, now I know we're going to win a championship. It was just like the Lakers hadn't won since '88 and the 2000 series. The Kobe lob to Shaq was a moment you knew the franchise. That was the franchise defining moment as far as where they're going to start winning again. Is there a moment like that? Because now Detroit's better. The Eagles are sharp with Saquon Barkley. If Jalen Hurts can if they keep him on schedule, because there's certain things he can't do, but if they don't worry about that, let him cook with all those receivers and Saquon, and their defense is solid, they were one of the best teams. The Eagles, 49ers, Cowboys, and Lions, I would have put Green Bay up there, are the cream de la cream in the NFC right now. Then the AFC, I interviewed Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to air that in my next show. And when my Steelers are not on TV, I watch the Colts, and I'm rooting for Jonathan Taylor to do well. But I'm also hoping that they win and he gets in the playoffs. We get to interview him a couple times. But the Texans look so good. And they were in Indianapolis with a team that wanted revenge, and they didn't dominate because the Colts were fighting back. But they took the lead in the second quarter when Stefon Diggs, they have on their team. Oh, my goodness. They have a great kicker. So when they took the lead 22-13 with Joe Mixon, which is a great addition, Stefon Diggs scored back. They were up 29-20 after Richardson, which he didn't play great, threw a great 54-yard touchdown to Dillon. And Richardson scored on a drive, but then Texas ran out the clock. And that's what the great teams do when they're up two and they gotta have it put the game away drive. They did. They went forward on fourth down to at their own 31. I agree. Usually it's a stupid move. I agreed with the way they were running, and Mixon got 4 yards. They ran right down Indianapolis' throat. Joe Mixon had 159 yards. I don't know why the Bengals got rid of him. I know it's his seventh year. Give him some type of deal to keep him. And they didn't. And Stroud is I'm putting Stroud over Jackson. I'm putting Stroud over. He's the he's in the top five at least as one of the, right now in his third year as far as the best quarterbacks in the league because he gets it. I mean, he had 115.9 QBR, 24 of 32, 234 yards passing. They had the passing going. Nico Collins is a superstar. You're giving me Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz? Are you kidding me? And then, oh my goodness. Then there, Eagle Boley, if I got that right, is a backup running back. And then they play physical defense, even though my guy Jonathan Taylor was okay when he had a hole. Richardson, this is what happened when they had a chance to go up more than 2 scores. Richardson missed a wide open Pittman, and not Pierce missed a wide. I'm talking about wide open Pierce in the end zone. I mean, whew. Then when he missed that long pass for a touchdown, they still was driving the ball, but I believe he ends up fumbling. No, it was Adonai Mitchell. He throws the ball to Adonai Mitchell. He's wide open for an easy touchdown, blown coverage. I'd rather you underthrow him. It's first and goal. And then over. You overthrow, the play's over, the momentum is shot. Now you got to try to get in the end zone again, and you didn't. They didn't get any points out of that. And that was costly. Then there was another couple of the misses that he's got to make as a quarterback. 9 of 19 for 212 yards. He's got to be better. He's got to stay in the pocket a little better. It's his second year. So he has to have a better feel of the game because that opens the door up for the best running back in the NFL and Jonathan Taylor. And then Pierce and Pittman and Mitchell could eat. And Ali Cox would be better because you're going to have to throw the ball to open up Jonathan Taylor. And then he had Taylor open on a third down out of the flat to make it a first down. He didn't do it. And you got to make those simple throws. You got to make the stick throws. You got to throw guys open. He's got ability, but he's got to do that in order to get up to the level of the Texans because that's your competitor. Those are the two teams that are going to be fighting for that division. Patriots beat the Bengals 16-10. Bengals slept walk. And I don't know about the running game. And this is the Bengals. And I love what Devin McCourty said. They're still living off 2021 where they were talking about Burrowhead and they were super overconfident after beating the Chiefs, which Chiefs threw the game away. And the Bengals had that miracle run. They thought they were just going to make a run after that. They didn't win the Super Bowl. They strut around like they're the defending Super Bowl champions every year. And this has always been, ever since Paul Brown, they were a solid button-up organization. But with his descent, he died and his descendants, like Sam Weiss had it, they had it rolling. And then Marvin Lewis kind of let the inmates run the asylum, and they were great talent, but they always underachieved by doing stupid stuff. And they didn't win any playoff games. They were fortunate to make a run with Burrow, but even Burrow I worry about with all the fashionista and all that stuff. It was a pedestrian. 21 to 29, 164 with an 86.0. Moss had 44 yards rushing. You definitely, if you have Joe Mixon, you're there. And Chase, He's got to get his money. He played well, but they're going to have to pay their receivers, or they're going to figure out something. I would not. I'm not. I would think the Ravens are going to win that division. I like that the Steelers won, but they kicked a whole bunch of field goals. I don't know what to think of them yet until they play really good competition. They probably should beat Denver, but you never know. They don't play well at Denver, but if they can squeak out a win, they'll be 2-0. But I would expect the Ravens to win division, but the Ravens have that whole division. They're suspect. Uh, Finally, the Dolphins. What a gut team. And when ATM is 17-7 Jaguars, when ATM fumbled the ball and they recovered, the Jacksonville completely imploded. And Tyreek Hill caught the long pass. Um, I'll get to his issue after I finish this report. 7 receptions, touchdown. When he caught that long touchdown pass, 80 yards, you could feel the life come out of Jacksonville. I knew that they were going to win. And then when Sanders kicked the last 2 field goals, they shut Trevor Lawrence down. The whole team imploded. And Trevor Lawrence, meh, he's just mid. He had 97.7 rating, 12 of 21 for 162 yards. ATM was okay, but they stoned Jacksonville in the fourth quarter. That defense, that crowd got going in, and I'm concerned about Trevor Lawrence. I thought he was a surefire superstar. I'm not sure now. I believe they're going to beat the Browns next week because Deshaun Watson's worse. But I love Miami. Buffalo's okay. Miami and the Jets will still be fighting in the division for the division title, I believe. All right, I want to address the Tyreek Hill situation. He was detained by cops before he went to the game, and I heard Calais Campbell's what he was there, so he was talking about what happened, and there was one over aggressive, possibly stupid cop. Uh, Look, he dragged Tyreek Hill out. He didn't have his seatbelt on. He was driving excessively. Okay, that's a ticket. Okay, slow down, and I'm gonna give you a ticket for a seatbelt, and just watch it next time, and you move on. You don't need 3 or 4 cops. That was unnecessary. Run a check. It's Tyreek Hill. He plays for the Dolphins. Okay. Hey, listen, man. Just slow down next time. I know you got to get to the game. Go ahead. That was so stupid and unnecessary. I will listen. I'm gonna continue to get the facts, and usually I'm a guy. Hey, they're bad cops, and they're really a lot of good cops. All cops, you can't paint all of them bad. All of them racist. But Miami-Dade County, I understand Tyreek Hill, he had his wife beater shirt on. And you're thinking he's maybe a thug or something, which you don't draw aspersions on, but you there's gotta be somebody in that police crew that's got enough brain matters. Hey, come in. Don't. He's a Dolphin. Just let him get to the game. He's probably going fast. He didn't have a seatbelt on. He's worried about getting there on time. He's a big game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay, but to detain him on the ground, and Calais Campbell is there. He's got his hands up. And I think he did good when the crazier cop came over to really engage with him, but he has hands up. He was compliant, but he wanted to just stay there, which was a good thing at this time. And once it settled down, they got to the game. It's a bad situation because you're making the Miami-Dade County cops look bad, and with the different tensions that were died down for a while, you're going to bring that back. You'll bring the political aspect back. You're going to bring stuff I can't stand hearing back, and it's the policeman's fault. He made every cop in Dade County look racist and stupid, and now Dolphins are upset. You got a major football organization upset with the police department. They got to go and apologize. They got to deal with the legal ramifications because if he decides to sue, you got to hurry up and settle because you don't have a leg to stand on if you're that cop. You fire the cop. You fire him, whatever you got to do. You're not a cop anymore. That's what I would do. And we said, listen, we don't run our police department like that. You got to jump ahead of that. If you're slow rolling, you're going to create a real problem. But that's the issue. The issue, the Tyreek Hill, he did good. He said, listen, we got to create a good relationship with the community and the cops. It's just he could have took this to a far different level. But he said, hey, and he scored a touchdown. He did the little handcuff and play and it act like he got handcuffed to the end zone. But he took the high road. Now it's probably Drew Rosenhaus probably going to look to get some change, look to get some money out of the police department, and as well they should. Hey man, listen, that cop they should have been warning signs. It's probably not the first time he did something that stupid. Now I'm gonna go get the facts. I don't know what Tyreek Hill said, but I doubt because Tyreek said you don't have to bang on the window. I don't think he was adversarial. He's trying to get to the football game, not trying to fight the cop. There's a way to say, hey, please roll down your window. He would have rolled down the window instead of trying to be a tough guy, bang on the window. This is ridiculous. That is, you just make every cop look bad, and now I got to hear this nonsense over and over because of the stupidity of this police officer. Is this from what the facts I see? And I'm a defender of the cops because my dad was a police chief of the town of Roselle. So I'm gonna say, hey, let's get the facts before we move on to different political things. But I, from what I see, this was an act of complete stupidity, knowing that that is a dolphin. The game is he's headed toward the game. If he's speeding, he could have just said, listen, I just by law have to give you a ticket, or you say, listen, slow down, put your seatbelt on, go beat the Jaguars. You could have did that. Most cops do that. You know, they recognize different celebrities. You didn't recognize them, you go look at the license plate. Tyreek Hill. Oh, wait a minute. He plays for the Dolphins. Hmm. Wait a second. Okay, he's speeding. All right. Instead of just flying off of the handle, trying to be a tough guy without a grain of sense. And now you got to pay the consequences because you're a national enemy. Now this people will you what you did to your family. Now you got to deal with the hate emails. You have to deal with all of that. And the Dolphins are mad. They're condemning that. You're doing, and look at the officers now. Now the other officers have to deal with that. There's consequences to stupid actions. I know. You know, he's going to be like, man, I should, maybe. If he doesn't seem like he has any sense, he might just say, hey, I went by the book. But I want to hear more details. But from what I see, this was a completely stupid act.